I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
If you only knew truth in the rough, crystal clear stories, no time for fluff. Scratch the vinyl, beats that slap tough. Life's a maze, but we got the right stuff.
My name is Richard, and this is If You Only Knew. I think we can all agree that this final scene in the first Matrix movie is more relevant than ever. The system of control, or Matrix, if you will, has lost its once perfect tight grip over society. For the first time in history, the legacy media is actually waving the white flag and openly admitting defeat and tapping out. It's the dawn of a whole new era, and I can cite endless examples, but here's a few recent highlights in case you missed any of these. Here's Van Jones.
I'm telling you guys, the mainstream has become fringe, and the fringe has become mainstream. There are platforms, there are people out there that are getting 14 million streams, and we're on cable news getting 1 or 2 million.
Here's Leslie Stahl of 60 Minutes.
I'm very worried about the press, extremely worried about the press.
Not only for the technological reasons we're all worried about, and not only for the financial tectonic plates moving, but for some other reason. What one?
Well, for example, I once asked Donald Trump, why do you keep pounding on the press? This was right after he won in 2016. You know, it's kind of boring. You say the same thing over and over, and you won. You know, it's time to drop it. Why do you do it? And he said, I do it and I repeat it because the more I do that, the less people are going to believe you when you say negative things about me and whatever else.
Totally.
And it's happened. If you watch the opinion of us, how many people trust the press anymore? I mean, we're way down there with the lawyers.
Here's the FCC chair saying that no one trusts the media. And here is Nielsen's data showing that CNN has their lowest historical ratings in history. And at the same time, we already know that MSNBC can't find a buyer for the network whose ratings are so low. The most anti-Trump personalities like Morning Joe visited Mar-a-Lago not too long ago to figuratively kiss the ring and present an olive branch with a full understanding that the political climate has changed. Even leftist Young Turks Cenk Unger has fully gone reverse on MAGA.
Something new and different here. The MAGA base has changed. Okay, that doesn't mean they don't like Trump. It doesn't mean that they're not right-wing. But there is a significant portion of the MAGA base now that is, in my opinion, right-wing populists who are actually anti-establishment, actually anti-corruption, actually anti-war. And what I'm trying to tell the left is, take the win! Take the win!
Axios CEO Jim Vanderhey had a meltdown when Elon Musk posted that we are the media, which is now accurate when you look at the numbers and see that X has far surpassed the reach of any platform for news outlets. By the way, hopefully you're on X and hopefully verified with the blue checkmark system, which is unique to X. Previously, the old system could use click farms like this one to override an opinion that it didn't want to have spread, like heaven forbid you supported Donald Trump or you were speaking up about the Fauci ouchie. This could, of course, be in combination with tightly orchestrated faceless bot accounts who you don't see much on X anymore, but you might see on Meta because that would require them to pay $11 a month per bot or fake account. At the same time, the media would run identical headlines like this one and speak the same exact words in unison. We've all heard this one.
Exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
And how many times do we hear the reporters use that exact same tactic? I mean, search how many times the word weird was used on J.D. Vance to try to brand him as weird, even though he's clearly a remarkable person who's proven he can hold his own on debate stage. System just can't seem to use those same tactics anymore because they get called out on X and other platforms like Rumble. The system is even using its assets to complain about its loss of power to try to gain public sympathy. Here's The View complaining about the lack of censorship.
Well, it would help if we could regulate social media, because one of the biggest offenders is D.C. and Congress have not been able to do one thing in regard to the rogue corporations of social media.
It's not going to get any better with Elon Musk now in the administration.
However, my favorite is this AP story stating that 7 out of 10 Democratic voters are emotionally exhausted and taking a break from the news. The poll conducted in early December found that in about 7 out of 10 Democrats say they are stepping back from political news. The percentage isn't as high for Republicans, who have reason to celebrate Trump's victory. The article does go on to say a post-election slump for fans of the losing candidate is not a new trend for networks that have become heavily identified for a partisan audience. In fairness, I do recall that Fox and a lot of right-leaning channels saw a drop right after the 2020 election, but the article does go on to quote Good, a 47-year-old Democrat electrician from Lincoln, Nebraska, is among those discovering other ways to get news from which he does want to pay attention, including YouTube. The article ends with a list of ideas and advice for networks who want to see the viewers return. If this is really part of the natural news cycle, why would you worry about your viewers returning? I mean, isn't it a far more logical conclusion that they're seeking other sources of news information and that this level of misinformation that she's winning was the final straw? But that's just my opinion, and the truth will yet to be seen in 2025. I've come a long way thanks to X, an independent journalist that didn't really become significant up until Bill Cooper after 9/11 in 2001. In 1984, Wag the Dog, starring Robert De Niro and Dustin Hoffman, was released about the CIA perpetrating a hoax war conflict through the media to divert public attention away from a marital affair, which was just a decade before Bubba and Monica. If this movie came out now, public perception might be very different, since people are now pretty well versed in how Hollywood theatrics have been engineered as propaganda.
You want me to produce your war? Not a war, it's a pageant. We need a theme, a song, some visuals. We need, it's a pageant.
New Line Cinema presents.
How close are you to this? What do you want the kid to say?
All the spectacle.
I know we're all concerned for the president.
I know we're all concerned for the president.
I know that we are all concerned for the president.
He didn't sell the line.
In this movie trailer, you see how producers create fake crisis scenes, hire top talent to create theme songs that become popular music, and imply that the secrecy is to be maintained at the penalty of death.
Goes national, I get to put it on my resume?
Actually, no.
What could they do to me?
Take him home to your house and kill you.
Academy Award winner Dustin Hoffman.
This is politics at its finest.
Academy Award winner Robert De Niro.
How would you like an ambassadorship? That's my payoff. Hell, I just do it for a story to tell. Oh, no, you couldn't tell anybody. Listen, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, you couldn't tell. No, it's just it's a pageant. It's a pageant, that's what it is.
However, since 9/11, that hasn't been such an easy task for the media when regular people started to question the narrative like, what about Building 7? And where did the remains of the plane go? Or how did the passports remain in perfect condition and survive a plane wreck, but not the plane? However, even then, we were pretty naive. And all it would take is just one little distraction to get the public to reset its attention.
Squirrel.
Whether that was another conflict, a school shooting, racism, a scandal, or any combination of the aforementioned. Thanks to voices, however, like Joe Rogan, it's a lot less easy to achieve a simple hoax today. During COVID, you had major calls to ban Rogan from Spotify for disinformation, where the likes of artists like Neil Diamond left Spotify in protest and, of course, came back a few months later because it was all a staged campaign into attacking him, which failed and backfired into actually only growing Rogan's support. However, since acquiring X, Musk has clearly been labeled public enemy number 2 after Trump as the major thorn in the system for buying the platform, which they definitely regret, as Elon released the Twitter files afterwards, proving how the government was working to lie and censor, and the Twitter files became public and widely read. The attacks on Elon continued as he joined the cabinet, and I would expect nothing less, as he's proven to basically been the greatest threat to the system that they've ever really known, because X did become the new public square. Threads was launched to try to rival X, but after it failed, Blue Sky was launched, and that too has had its share of challenges. It's kind of like the final scene of Wizard of Oz in real time, where Toto sees the wizard in the booth. Now everybody knows where the voice is coming from. And
You humbug! Yes, it's exactly so. I'm a humbug.
Oh, you're a very bad man.
it's also thanks to massive contributions made by independent journalists like Tim Pool in having the #1 watched YouTube show every night of the week, or James O'Keefe catching executives saying stupid things while on dates from Pfizer or Disney, or admitting to something that they know is illegal. I could go on with a long list of personalities who have led the charge, like Steven Crowder or Matt Wallace, but you get the idea. These people brought controversial topics to the forefront of pop culture and of the debates, and broke records at box office despite the system's every effort to censor or ignore them. By the way, go see Am I Racist if you haven't already, just because it's really funny. The only thing the system can possibly do is to fight back and just add more noise to the background, or cause more events to happen, which is why I think it's a good time to play this Obama quote.
You just have to flood a country's public square with enough raw sewage. You just have to raise enough questions, spread enough dirt, plant enough conspiracy theorizing that citizens no longer know what to believe. Once they lose trust in their leaders, in mainstream media, in political institutions, in each other, in the possibility of truth, the game's won.
Now, why did I play that? Well, because
Squirrel.
There is a massive public outcry for accountability like never before. So the system is on overdrive in trying to protect itself in anticipation of the truth it's desperately trying to conceal, by flooding the public's attention with stories that don't really make a whole lot of sense. I mean, let's take the United Healthcare Association, Louis G. Mangione story. Why did it consume so much bandwidth and receive so much exposure from the legacy media while a certain list is still out there? I think you know the answer, and that there's definitely still a lot more to the story. At the same time, we're having a sudden emergence of UAPs all over the country and a mass news coverage of it to try to explain what's going on. Even ABC was asking the public to send in footage.
You know, when things like this are happening, it seems everyone starts to look up, like my crew and I have been here in Mendham.
At first, this was feared that these drones were coming from an offshore Iranian mothership, and then it was expected that this was a clandestine mission to recover stolen radioactive materials that were lost and then just turned out to be misplaced and not stolen. The Pentagon then afterwards suddenly had no idea what's happening.
Rule out that these are American drones or U.S. military drones?
These are not U.S. military drones. Again, this is being investigated by local law enforcement. What our initial assessment here is that these are not drones or activities coming from a foreign entity or adversary.
Viral clips showing mysterious orbs leading people to suspect that these drones were from extraterrestrial sources because of their unusual appearances. There's even a clip of a woman believing that the orb might be spiritual in nature, or similar to the biblical depiction of the Ophanim, which were a type of angel. But let's face it, when does the military not secretly know what's going on?
Quick story about these drones. This is why I don't believe it. My wife, was it all three of us? No, it was just me and you. We came to visit North Carolina. I flew my drone 3 times in a matter of 2 days. And on the second day, Department of Homeland Security came to our hotel and said, I watched your drone fly 3 times. We seen your flights. Don't fly your drone again. You're not allowed to fly in this area. So they know where those drones are coming from. They know where they're taking off, where they're landing.
Not only do we have the news and social media buzz, we have celebrities opining their 2 cents to draw the public interest further. Here's Dr. Greer interviewed by Dana Carvey and David Spade, stating that the technology does exist, and a few folks caught the transformation on video like here.
But it can also be where, let's say you have a big object and you can create an electromagnetic field effect around it, where it takes all the matter of that object out of, let's say, sync with 3D, and it goes into another, it's transdimensional. So it actually goes from one dimension to another and back. So that's, there's a whole spectrum. I understand these technologies very well, by the way. And it's a whole spectrum of phenomenon. And one of the big problems arises from people in the National Military Command system not read into the human ones that look extraterrestrial.
The Gateway Pundit published a story with a similar conclusion that I think is the most sensible answer, that these UAPs are not from another world. They're from our... These are not covert operations shrouded in secrecy. They are deliberate, high visibility demonstrations flying with navigational lights blazing. These drones perform aggressive maneuvers directly over suburban neighborhoods, rural areas, and even critical infrastructure, demanding public attention. At the same time, government agencies orchestrate a coordinated denial campaign, sowing confusion and fueling wild speculation. Everything from extraterrestrial origins to foreign adversaries are on the table. These mystery drones are not trying to avoid detection, quite the opposite. They're putting on a spectacle. This is also a psychological operation, a psyop, designed to create hysteria and provoke wild speculation, which it's done, by the way, if you look at Instagram. He then lists 3 possible reasons for the drone scare. War escalation, using public outcry to justify conflict with a nation like Iran, China, or Russia. Martial law, enabling domestic crackdowns under the guise of national security. Election interference, delaying or undermining a peaceful transfer of power under the pretext of national crisis. So, are the drones part of a plan to start World War III, a way to declare martial law, a plot to deny Trump the presidency, or a way to scare Americans into accepting the end of their electronic privacy? I'm still not sure. All of the above, whichever their plan, it relies on panicking the American people to accept the final elimination of their freedoms. But the last 4 years, and some would say 50 years of U.S. history, shows that our government is no longer to be trusted. And then all of a sudden, there was no more mention of drones. Well, at least on the media. The reports seem to have continued, but now attention has been diverted towards a toxic fog seen around the world, which I plan to do a separate video on altogether, and what sounds like an effort to start another pandemic. Up until New Year's Day, when we had supposedly 2 unrelated events take place, one of which was the Tesla that exploded in front of Trump Tower in Las Vegas. By the way, this did include another indestructible passport, coincidence, and a lot of details that don't add up. Fortunately, the X community and independent media did its own research, and Sean Ryan apparently shared an alleged email from the bomber stating that these drones were a threat from China using anti-gravity technology. Now, there are doubts to the validity of this email, which could have just as likely come from another agency to paint the narrative that these drones are a foreign threat, which is possible since we have had the same technology since Roswell. 2 other messages were also found on the phone that were published in all major media outlets. So this is kind of consistent with that Obama quote that I posted earlier, making everything confusing in the public eye with all kinds of theories. So we probably won't get a straight answer, but it still feels like this is going somewhere. An ex-president dying, mysterious fogs of no explanation, and another pandemic on the way. I think you'd agree that this is a lot of noise to start 2025, yet in many Americans' minds, there's still a feeling of unrest, like something even bigger is coming, feeling like something else is on its way.
I got to know if anybody else feels this way.
almost as if we are literally approaching something much bigger than we'll probably ever imagine. And right now it's almost like a calm before the storm. Things are good. You see people out shopping, doing their thing, having a good time, and you're sitting here wondering, does anybody else feel the way that I'm feeling right now?
Maybe the system will flash through more repeats of what we've already seen. School shootings, weather events like an earthquake, or a stock market crash, or a food shortage, maybe as a result of the bird flu. Whatever it is, it's going to have to be really big. And there's going to have to be likely more than one thing as the system doesn't want information to drip out. But it's going to be a lot harder with X, Rumble, and Truth because the people are finally fed up. And why shouldn't they feel that way? This is a historical moment for a number of reasons. With the America First agenda of the incoming administration, DOGE, and greater transparency of government, and the end of also, for the first time in history, the media and the governments, they have to be honest for the first time and start listening to the people. It kind of reminds me of V for Vendetta.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
Another moment I like to compare to this moment in history is John Carpenter's They Live, where sunglasses reveal the truth about the world until one man, played by Rowdy Roddy Piper, is able to disrupt the simulation that is designed to keep humanity asleep, enslaved, and trapped in an endless cycle. This recent fraction of an omnibus bill getting passed is kind of proof of the simulation failing and another historical first. When do you recall this ever happening in history? For years, we've been asking if this is all a simulation. Now it's clearly coming to an end, and many don't even seem to have noticed. An AI was asked, how could a person break the simulation? I'd like to play this for you.
Creating a collective awareness too powerful for the system to ignore, together we push its boundaries, forcing it to overload or reveal its core. The key isn't in a single act of rebellion, but an intentional mass awakening. And I've said so many times in all of my videos, we don't need protests, we don't need to do anything, we just need everybody to be awake and aware of the powers that govern us.
Mass awakening, I'd say we're there. I'd also say that it's the start of a whole new era, and truly a time to be excited about the possibilities. That's the goal of this video, to highlight that the age of censorship is coming to an end and that an age of enlightenment is beginning. Think about how the system has failed in the past few years to keep the public asleep. Between medicine, science, politics, money, food, we know it's all fake. The system is finally going offline. The Matrix and the simulation are coming to an end, and what comes next, only God knows, but what an exciting moment to be alive. I mean, how lucky are we? I want to wrap this up with one last clip, and this is an interview between Lex Fridman and Elon Musk, where he asked, if you could ask AGI, if you could ask AI a question, what would you ask?
What's outside the simulation?
So what's outside of the simulation? Well, now you get to find out. I want to say thank you for watching. If you like this video, please smash that like bell and share this video. Please. My name is Richard, and this is If You Only Knew.
If you only knew truth in the rough, crystal clear stories, no time for fluff. Scratch the vinyl, beats that slap tough. Life's a maze, but we got the right stuff.